From accusations of running from his opponent till he was old, to Canelo's need for a comeback after his career's second loss, let's look at the most important updates before the hottest trilogy in combat sports returns to Mexico this year. The King of Mexico finally makes his return as the undisputed champion. We haven't seen Canelo in action since his loss to WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol in May. The first time we've seen someone get the better of the Mexican superstar since his loss to Mayweather early in his career. The fans are almost as excited to see their hero back in the ring as Álvarez is to redeem himself, and he's returning to his home city of Jalisco to do it. But this fight is special, a historic moment for Mexican combat sports. It's the first time Álvarez enters the country as the undisputed champion of the world. His loss to Bivol came at a higher weight class, and Canelo didn't lose any of the 4 titles he already held. In fact, he added the IBF belt to his tally once he stripped it off arch-rival Caleb Plant in September 2021 in Las Vegas, and can now call himself the best super middleweight in the world. It's bound to be a special night in Mexico. Their crown prince returns to a Mexican ring for the first time in 11.5 years. It's a big moment for Canelo too, and I assure you he's making a ton of sacrifices to make this possible. Álvarez is taking a massive pay cut to finally fight in Mexico again. He's finally in a position in his career where making these decisions aren't going to hurt his brand or his purse. Of course, he's wanted to fight in Mexico as much as possible, but his own stardom hasn't allowed it this past decade. It's just not financially viable to hold a massive event in Mexico, when locations like Las Vegas and Madison Square Garden in New York offer much larger payouts for everybody involved. Thankfully, Canelo is so huge now that he can comfortably take those accounting hits for the joy of fighting at home. The Mexican said it's not always about money, no matter how important it is, and sometimes pride has to take precedence. Eddie Hearn became Canelo's manager 6 fights ago and has been working towards a Mexican event ever since. And much of that has to do with the amount of money Álvarez has made in the past couple of outings. His trilogy fight against Gennady Golovkin had a $45 million guaranteed purse, and real earnings probably went close to $100 million, while his loss to Bivol came tied up neatly with at least $15 million. Safe to say, the champ has enough nickels in the bank to take a hit on his purse right now. He puts his undisputed title on the line against a mandatory contender from the World Boxing Organization. John Ryder has the chance to make history on Cinco de Mayo. Every time you have a champion return to his hometown for a huge, special event, the challenger has an unparalleled opportunity. Beating Canelo Álvarez and becoming an undisputed champion is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity already. But if you add all the hype surrounding his newly earned undisputed status and his return to Mexico, spoiling the party will make him a superstar. There's going to be a ton of pressure on Canelo to perform in front of his home crowd. And you have to wonder how the recent loss to Bivol has affected his confidence while taking on a hungry interim champion. I'm sure he hasn't faced anything like Canelo in the 12 years he's been fighting professionally, but we've all started to wonder what direction Canelo's career is going to take now that he's getting older. Bivol gave the world a blueprint and gave us proof of mortality in Álvarez, and that maybe all future challengers need to overcome the aura of invincibility Canelo has exuded for more than a decade now. Ryder could be the one fate has chosen to bring an end to Canelo's reign. The challenger from London has only recently started to get into the groove of his career and has a very healthy knockout ratio of 32 wins to 18 KOs, and capturing the WBO interim championship against Zach Parker will give him some necessary championship experience. If you talk to him and look at his recent fights though, you start to believe he has it in him to force an upset in Álvarez's backyard backyard. Even before he got the interim belt, the 34-year-old had a career-best performance against former middleweight kingpin Daniel Jacobs. That victory followed a long list of championship contenders from his home country that had been on tears until they met Canelo, and challenged Callum Smith for the super middleweight title after fights with Billy Joe Saunders and Rocky Fielding. I'm telling you, Ryder is for real. He's proven himself time and again against top-level competition and looks fully dialed into the task of becoming an undisputed champion. Unfortunately, few people see it that way. There's a huge part of the fan base that is hypercritical of the champ choosing Ryder as his next opponent. Canelo may be looking for an easy fight after getting beat. The true badass move, which we kind of know Álvarez to make, would be going for an immediate rematch against Bivol after his loss, because losing so convincingly should bother Canelo more than it seems to. Fans don't even care Canelo was forced by contract to defend his WBO belt. They wanted him to vacate it and immediately try to avenge his loss against the larger opponent, or take on Benavidez. But if I'm being completely honest, that would have been a pretty weird thing to do so soon after achieving your lifelong dream of becoming an undisputed champion. What's the point of chasing after more belts when you haven't even defended the ones you have right now? The true mark of a champion comes from keeping the throne, not just sitting on it, and this return to Mexico is a much bigger deal for Canelo's legacy than trying to leave his weight class and getting yet another championship. He can barely carry the ones he has right now. I doubt he's thinking about the haters right now, and he's not the only one getting chewed out. Ryder isn't exactly the community's favorite guy right now because they don't think his title shot was earned. It's a good thing John isn't too affected by the criticism though, and is focused on the task at hand. Ryder admires Canelo, but wants to completely end him. He has a complete plan for it too. Ignore what everyone's saying right now and win the championship, only to turn around and immediately call Álvarez out for a rematch. If he manages to beat the undisputed champion, then he's not going to have a real choice when it comes to the rematch. Canelo may have let the Bivol loss go because all he lost was an opportunity to win more than what he already had, but take his bread and butter away from him in his weight class and there's no shot he doesn't turn around to win it back. For John, the possibilities are endless, and he believes the pressure is on Álvarez, not him, with the entire hometown return. And coming off an injury isn't going to help his form. Ryder said his opponent looked like a shadow of himself against Bivol, and he was seeing the vintage Canelo fade in the Golovkin fight too. That's the mindset any challenger needs to have when he takes on a longtime champion. It keeps the nerves at bay. Well folks, that's all the news on Canelo's hometown return on Cinco de Mayo.